Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by asking you a question that may seem paradoxical, but I need you to reflect on it for a moment. How many of you have been kind to someone, only to have that kindness met with disrespect, ingratitude, or even exploitation? I see your hands, and I know many of you have experienced this. You gave without expecting anything in return, but you were met with disdain, perhaps even manipulation. Today, we are going to unravel the truth behind this phenomenon, why sometimes your kindness can be a reason people disrespect you. Now, before I go any further, let me make one thing clear. Kindness is a virtue, a beautiful and powerful force that has the potential to transform lives. It's something we must never abandon. But what I want to discuss today is the danger of unchecked kindness, and how when it's misunderstood or misused, it can lead to consequences that no one desires. We live in a world where strength is often measured by how loud you speak, how much you can accomplish on your own, and how little you rely on others. In such an environment, kindness is often seen as a vulnerability, an opening for others to take advantage of you. When you extend kindness to others, especially when it's accompanied by patience, empathy, or sacrifice, many people don't see your good heart. They don't recognize the strength behind your kindness. Instead, they mistake it for something weaker, something that can be exploited. The reason is simple. Society has conditioned us to associate kindness with passivity. When someone is consistently kind, they are often seen as someone who will never say no, someone who won't stand firm for themselves. We've been taught to believe that if you don't assert yourself aggressively, if you don't fight for your rights, you will be seen as insignificant. This is the false narrative many people have internalized. And it's why they may misread your kindness as weakness. But let me tell you something, kindness is not weakness. It's not about giving in to every whim or desire of others. True kindness comes from strength. It comes from the ability to choose to serve, to love, to help, despite what others may think or do. It's the ability to say, I see the best in you, even if you don't see it in yourself. But here's the challenge. When you're kind, people don't always return it in kind. They don't always appreciate it, and they may even take advantage of it. Consider the example of a manager who leads with kindness. He gives his employees the benefit of the doubt, listens to their concerns, and strives to create a positive working environment. But over time, some employees start showing up late, taking extended breaks, or underperforming, knowing that the manager won't reprimand them harshly. They begin to assume that his kindness means he's not serious about performance, that his leniency makes him weak. In reality, the manager is displaying leadership through kindness, but those around him interpret it as a sign of softness. This misunderstanding often leads to frustration for the person who is kind. You give with an open heart, yet feel betrayed when that kindness is misinterpreted. Your intention was never to appear weak. Your intention was to uplift and empower others. Yet, they don't see that strength. Instead, they see someone who is an easy target for exploitation. In such cases, the very kindness that should elevate you and others is viewed as an opportunity for others to assert their dominance or to simply take what you offer without appreciating it. When kindness is misinterpreted, it opens the door to disrespect. It's important to recognize that people's perception of you is not necessarily the truth. They may see your humility, your patience, and your willingness to help, but that doesn't define your strength. True strength is knowing when to say no, knowing when to stand your ground, and knowing when to walk away. Let me ask you, when you are kind, are you kind to get approval from others? Or are you kind because it reflects your inner strength? The challenge is to give without the need for validation from others. True kindness does not demand recognition. It simply gives because that is who you are. But that doesn't mean you should allow others to take advantage of you. Your kindness should be rooted in confidence and self-respect. When you are truly secure in who you are, you won't need to constantly prove yourself to others. one of the greatest dangers of being kind is when you give without setting proper boundaries. It's a mistake many of us make because we believe that kindness means being open to anyone at any time, giving to others at all costs. But this kind of unconditional giving without boundaries is not true kindness. It is self-sacrifice that eventually leads to burnout, resentment, and yes, disrespect. When we give without thinking about the emotional or physical cost to ourselves, we run the risk of becoming overwhelmed. Think of the parent who constantly puts the needs of their children before their own, sacrificing their rest, their happiness, their peace of mind. The parent may feel that their kindness is necessary, that their children need them, but over time, the weight of these sacrifices can take a toll. And when the children grow older, they may not appreciate the extent to which their parent gave up everything for them. They might take it for granted, or worse, they might feel entitled to even more, never realizing the cost of that kindness. Boundaries are not about building walls to keep people out. They're about recognizing your limits and honoring your own needs. Boundaries are a sign of respect for yourself and for others. They say, I value myself enough to know what I can give and when I need to stop. Without boundaries, your kindness becomes a one-way street. You are giving, but the other person is just taking. You're the one who feels drained, unappreciated, and even angry, yet you continue to give because you think it's the right thing to do. Take, for instance, the story of a woman who always goes above and beyond to help her friends and family. She is the go-to person for every crisis, always offering support, advice, and time. But one day, she reaches a point of exhaustion. She's been stretched too thin. And yet, when she says she needs a break, when she asks for help in return, no one seems to notice. They just continue to demand more from her, expecting her to be available no matter what. This woman finds herself resentful, bitter, and questioning why her kindness has been met with such disregard. The truth is, her unconditional giving, without boundaries, left her vulnerable to exploitation. When kindness is given without limits, it quickly turns into an obligation. The other person no longer sees it as a gift, but as something they are entitled to. They expect your time, your energy, and your resources without considering the toll it takes on you. At this point, your kindness has become an expectation, not something freely given. Now, some of you might be thinking, but isn't kindness supposed to be without limits? Isn't that the definition of selflessness? And yes, kindness is selfless, but it is not foolish. You are not required to give everything without considering what it will cost you. Self-care is not selfish. It is essential. Without taking care of yourself, you will eventually have nothing left to give. Setting boundaries allows you to serve from a place of abundance, not depletion. It's like filling a cup with water. If you keep giving without refilling your cup, eventually it will run dry. And when your cup runs dry, what do you have to give? When you set boundaries, you ensure that your kindness is sustainable, that you can continue to help and support others without losing yourself in the process. Kindness, when untethered by discipline, can quickly become ineffective and worse, open to manipulation. It's one thing to be kind, but it's entirely another to be kind without standards, without expectations. Without discipline, your kindness will not create the environment for true respect. People won't rise to meet you. They will remain where they are, comfortable with the idea that you will continue to accept their worst behaviors because of your kindness. Being kind is not about tolerating bad behavior or mediocrity. You can love someone and still hold them accountable for their actions. The real test of kindness comes when you are forced to enforce the values you hold dear, even if it means that others might be upset or uncomfortable. True kindness doesn't let people slide by. It challenges them to be better. This principle is exemplified in leadership. A good leader knows that discipline is not the opposite of kindness. It is its greatest ally. A leader who is kind but lacks discipline will never be respected in the long run. People may appreciate them in the short term, but they will not follow them or grow under their guidance. Without discipline, kindness lacks the structure needed to inspire change or improvement. Take the example of a teacher who is kind to her students, always offering second chances, letting deadlines slide, and forgiving mistakes without consequences. She wants to be liked, to be seen as understanding and compassionate. But as time passes, her students stop taking her seriously. They no longer do their best work or respect the authority she holds. They take advantage of her kindness. She gives them opportunities for growth, but they don't take them seriously because they understand there is no true consequence for poor performance. Her kindness becomes a crutch, something that prevents them from learning accountability, something that ultimately hinders their potential. The students don't grow, they remain stagnant, and the teacher ends up feeling disrespected because her efforts aren't yielding results. Without the backbone of discipline, kindness becomes meaningless. This doesn't mean that you should be harsh or unapproachable. On the contrary, kindness should be at the core of every action you take. But kindness alone will never be enough to create the respect or the change you want to see in others. Without discipline, you are not truly honoring your kindness. You are allowing others to fail to meet the expectations that come with your generosity. And in doing so, you disrespect yourself. Think about the mentor who always encourages his mentees but never holds them accountable for their actions. He constantly praises them, hoping that his kindness will inspire them to improve, but he never challenges them to grow. Over time, the mentees begin to expect his praise, not because they earned it, but because he has conditioned them to believe that kindness equals blind approval. They take it for granted. They fail to recognize that true mentorship is a balance between nurturing and holding someone to a standard. Without discipline, the mentor is just a cheerleader, not a guide. His kindness is wasted. In relationships, this principle is no different. Kindness without discipline in a marriage or partnership can lead to resentment. You might love your partner dearly, but if you continuously overlook their bad behavior or let them walk all over you, your kindness won't lead to mutual respect. Instead, it will foster an imbalance where one person gives and sacrifices and the other takes without reciprocation. That is not love, it is self-sabotage. Kindness must be balanced with boundaries and discipline to ensure that both people grow and thrive in the relationship. Kindness is not a one-time decision. It is a commitment. And with every commitment comes a test. The truth is, your kindness will be tested over and over again, and it will not always be appreciated in the way you expect. People will take advantage of you, misinterpret your good intentions, or fail to show gratitude. But here's the lesson. How you respond to these tests will determine the strength and impact of your kindness. Every time you extend your hand, you are creating a possibility for others to take advantage of you. The test of your kindness is not in the act itself, but in how you manage the rejection, manipulation, and ingratitude that may come as a result. This is where many people falter. They give with open hearts, but when their kindness is met with disrespect, they either withdraw completely or become bitter and resentful. They stop giving and they stop trusting because they feel that their kindness has been betrayed. But let's be clear, your kindness is not about their response. It's about your heart and your integrity. You must decide before you give that your kindness is not dependent on how others treat you. It's about who you are, what you choose to give, and the impact you want to have on the world. It's about recognizing that the test is not in the outcome, but in the consistency of your actions. Think of the story of a person who volunteers their time to help others. Perhaps they serve in a shelter, or they offer emotional support to those in need. They are there week after week, offering their time and energy, despite the fact that many people don't say thank you. Some of the people they help may even be ungrateful or take advantage of their kindness. But the volunteer keeps giving. Why? Because their kindness is not about being acknowledged by others. It is a test of their character. a test of whether they will continue to give without seeking anything in return. This type of kindness requires strength and resilience. It's easy to give when people appreciate your efforts. It's easy to be kind when you receive compliments, praise, and admiration in return. But real kindness, the kind that changes lives, endures through the moments when no one notices, when no one thanks you. It is in the times when you give without any expectation of receiving, and yet you choose to continue because you know that the true value of kindness is in the giving itself. Your kindness will be tested by the people who challenge you the most. It will be tested by those who ignore your efforts, take advantage of your generosity, or belittle your contributions. But it is in those moments that your kindness proves its true worth. You must choose to give because it is in your nature and not because of how others respond. Consider the parent who consistently sacrifices for their children, even when their efforts go unnoticed or unappreciated. The parent might feel exhausted, disrespected, and unacknowledged. But over time, as the child matures, they begin to understand the depth of their parents' love and the sacrifices that were made. They begin to appreciate the value of what they received, even if it was not immediately evident. Your kindness is often a seed planted, not for instant results, but for growth that comes in time. The test is in your perseverance, in continuing to show up even when no one notices. In relationships, whether personal or professional, the test of your kindness will come when your efforts are not immediately recognized or reciprocated. This is when you have the opportunity to decide, will you continue to show up with love even when you don't feel seen or valued? Will you keep giving, knowing that your kindness may not be returned in kind? This is where the true power of your character is revealed. When we think of kindness, we often picture gentle words, warm embraces, or acts of service. But kindness is not always soft or sweet. Sometimes kindness must be tough. It must be willing to challenge, to confront, and to hold others accountable for their actions. This is the aspect of kindness that many people overlook or avoid, but it's also the one that produces the greatest transformation. Tough love is the kind of kindness that calls people to their higher potential, even when it's uncomfortable or difficult to deliver. In today's world, we tend to value comfort over growth. We want to be liked, we want others to be happy with us, and we want to avoid conflict. So we shy away from telling people the hard truth, from giving them feedback that might hurt in the short term, but will ultimately help them grow. We may shy away from calling out bad behavior or challenging someone's actions because we fear being perceived as harsh or unkind. But in doing so, we fail to truly serve them. Kindness without the willingness to confront or challenge is incomplete. Think about a parent who loves their child deeply. The parent's kindness is shown in the sacrifices they make, the care they provide, and the countless hours spent ensuring the child has everything they need. But if that parent sees their child heading down a destructive path, maybe with bad friends, unhealthy habits, or negative mindsets, true kindness demands that the parents step in, not with anger or rejection, but with truth. It's easy to be a parent who simply provides comfort and avoids confrontation, but real love, real kindness comes in the form of tough love. It means saying, I love you enough to tell you the truth, even if it hurts. This is the same for friendships, relationships, or even in a workplace setting. Tough love is the courage to stand firm when everyone else might want to look the other way. It's about being willing to speak up and risk being uncomfortable for the sake of someone's well-being, even if they don't appreciate it at the moment. Sometimes people need a wake-up call, a challenge, a push, or a reality check to help them realize that they are capable of so much more than they are currently showing. One of the most powerful examples of tough love can be seen in the mentor-mentee relationship. A mentor who truly loves their mentee won't just offer encouragement and soft pats on the back. They won't hesitate to give honest feedback, to call them out when they fall short, and to hold them accountable when they slip. Yes, the mentee may feel disappointed or frustrated at the moment, but that tough love will ultimately be what elevates them to the next level. If the mentor only offers praise without challenging the mentee's limits, they are not preparing them for success. True mentorship requires strength to help the mentee face their weaknesses and take responsibility for their actions. In our society, we've been conditioned to avoid discomfort, but discomfort, especially when delivered with kindness, is one of the greatest tools for growth. Kindness should not shield people from the consequences of their actions. It should not allow them to stay stuck in their bad habits or toxic behaviors. Sometimes we need to show up with a firm stance and say, this is not okay, or you are capable of more and I will not accept less. Consider the case of an employee who consistently underperforms at work but has a manager who is too kind to give constructive feedback. The manager is always polite, always positive, and refrains from pointing out areas of improvement. The employee might think they're doing just fine, but the truth is they're not growing. They're not improving. And in the long run, the lack of honest, tough feedback will hurt their career and stunt their potential. A kind manager, on the other hand, will step in and say, you're not meeting expectations, and I'm here to help you get better. The manager's love for the employee's success pushes them to have the difficult conversation, even at the risk of the employee being upset. In the end, it is this type of tough love that leads to real progress. It is the same in intimate relationships. Many people avoid difficult conversations, whether it's about finances, behavior, or emotional health. But when we choose comfort over honesty, we rob the relationship of the opportunity to grow. True love is about building a partnership where both people can be vulnerable and at times even be called out when necessary. This kind of love is not always easy, but it is the kind of love that builds trust, respect, and deep connection. When both individuals are held accountable and challenged to be their best selves, the relationship thrives. Tough love also extends to our relationship with ourselves. We often allow our own weaknesses, bad habits, and complacency to go unchecked because we are too kind to ourselves in a way that hinders growth. We let ourselves off the hook, excusing laziness, procrastination, or fear because we don't want to be harsh with ourselves. But true self-kindness means facing your weaknesses and saying, I deserve to be better and I will hold myself to a higher standard. It's the ability to show yourself the same grace you would show others, but also to challenge yourself to step into your full potential. Tough love is the reminder that we are capable of so much more than we often give ourselves credit for. The danger is that without tough love, kindness can become enabling. It can perpetuate stagnation and mediocrity. When you continuously forgive and never call someone to rise above their failures, you rob them of the chance to grow. You may think you're being kind, but in reality, you are denying them the opportunity to evolve, to become the person they are truly meant to be. The toughest thing to do in love is often to say no or to draw a line, but it is in doing so that you give the person the chance to face reality, to face their challenges, and ultimately to rise above them. Tough love is not about being cruel. It is about showing the strength to challenge someone to become better. It's about the courage to show up for them when they might not understand why you're pushing them. It's about loving them enough to risk their temporary discomfort for their long-term benefit. Kindness is not a simple act of giving without boundaries or a passive invitation to be taken advantage of. True kindness is powerful because it comes from a place of strength, discipline, and love. It is not about being liked or appreciated in the moment, but about being consistent, even when your efforts go unnoticed. Kindness that challenges, that holds people accountable, that shows up in tough love. This is the kind of kindness that transforms lives. When you are kind, be wise enough to recognize when that kindness is being misunderstood or misused. Be strong enough to stand your ground when needed, and be courageous enough to give tough love when it is necessary. And always hold yourself to the same standard you hold others, demanding excellence, growth, and respect in all your relationships with others and with yourself. Kindness, when anchored in discipline and courage, does not lead to disrespect. It leads to elevation. Elevation of others, yes, but also of yourself. When you learn to give with purpose, to challenge with love, and to set boundaries with grace, you will find that your kindness has a profound impact, not only on those around you, but on the legacy you leave. Remember, the most impactful acts of kindness are often the ones that are tested the most. But when they are tested, they are refined and made stronger, becoming the very thing that shapes a future built on respect, honor, and genuine love. Keep giving, but give wisely. Keep loving, but love boldly. And know that when kindness is rooted in strength, it will always find its true power.